Today on Locked On Rockies, 3 areas the Rockies have to be better at in whatever the proper grammar is this year in order to compete. It's going to fire.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 6th day of April in the year 2022. Yes, count them, 2 days away from Rockies opening day. Pretty wild. From the whole offseason, the what ifs, all the ruckus, we are here. Rockies baseball is right around the corner, and we're going to be talking about it 5 days a week right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast, breaking down the series, breaking down the season, breaking down the players, all of your Rockies talk happening right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. I'm your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, breaking things down for you. You can catch all sorts of things I do at paulfholden.com, or you can find me on the airwaves here in the Pacific Northwest as well, helping out with the Mariners broadcast sometimes and voicing your next favorite project, I hope. Anyway, today on Locked On Rockies, I want to find or highlight three areas for the Rockies that they have to be better in this year, better at. It's hard. I know I made the mistake at the beginning. You saw the beauties of me recording this podcast live, which you can find live on YouTube when you subscribe to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Folks, your subscription on YouTube would mean the world, and it's a massive help. If you like the show, even if you're only an audio listener, your subscription on YouTube would mean the absolute world. Anyway, there's 3 areas that the Rockies need to improve, and they need to be better. And will they be better in these areas? That remains to be seen. But they're areas that we've talked about all season long, all off season long. And it's the narrative that's going to continue as we go through the early part of the season, because we have to continue this conversation. If the Rockies are going to be successful this season, and your definition of success can vary. Me, a successful Rockies season is around 500. They're not as bad as everyone says. They see improvements in these areas. They just kind of realize that this roster isn't as up to snuff as, say, the Dodgers or the Giants in just terms of having to play the NL West all the time. That is kind of baseball. That is kind of part of the hand that the Rockies are dealt. However, so whatever your definition of success for you might only be playoffs. It might only be World Series, nothing else under, I don't know what your definition of success is as a Rockies fan, but for me, a successful Rockies season, a really successful Rockies season is around 500 or above 500 ball that puts them in a third wild card position. A successful season, I think, for the Rockies is Kris Bryant leads this offense. The Rockies find themselves, maybe in a late race for a wild card, but are just playing solid baseball throughout the year. Maybe a couple of tough months there as it's a long season. Maybe the beginning of the season's tough to get the new faces and everything gelling and rolling. I don't know. But I shouldn't say I don't know when I'm defining my terms of success. But my definition of success would be a nice high 70s to mid 70s win season with these pieces improving on things that the Rockies need to improve on. Bullpen pitching, offense, and playing on the road. Those are the 3 areas that the Rockies must see improvement in this year. They simply cannot think that they are going to compete with the NL West or a lot of these other really good teams across the National League and baseball if they aren't better on offense, better as a bullpen, and better on the road. Let's start with being better on the road. The Rockies need to, the narrative around the Rockies will never change when seasons like last year happen. The Rockies, again, were a dominant force at home, but they couldn't do anything on the road. And that lack of consistency has been something that's plagued the Rockies for a long, long time, sure. But it's also something that you just kind of can't expect to happen again. You don't anticipate the Rockies might be bad on the road this year. That's definitely a possibility, the Rockies being bad on the road this year. I don't think they are going to be on pace to be one of the worst teams in history bad, as they were at many points last year, and we're still one of the worst road teams in baseball to wind out the season. So the Rockies, and this circles back to our competitive question. The path to competitive baseball for the Rockies is going to be mostly walked on the road. I am confident in this Rockies team taking on people at home. They will lose home series to the Dodgers. They will lose home series to the Giants. They might lose home series to the Padres and the Diamondbacks as well because of how much they play them and because of how much the division is familiar with Coors. However, every team, every time, every single time a team that doesn't have to go to Colorado regularly has to deal with some form of altitude thing or this or that or whatever they want to talk about. And that's going to lead to the Rockies being successful at home. The Rockies have to be better on the road. They need to be able to carry the confidence of their at-home play and bring it on the road and be able to play good, consistent baseball and put solid stretches of competitive baseball together. If you are the winning team that you think you are, if you are the competitive team that you want to be, if you actually believe you are a playoff team, as we have been told in some areas and by some of the Colorado Rockies organization and ownership, the road to the playoffs, the road to success, the road to competitive baseball is mostly going to be walked on the road. And especially after last year, we have to see this team able to put together consistent periods of baseball. And will it happen? I don't know. I mean, we really don't know what this entire new look Rockies offense is going to be. We do have to just listen and kind of look at the fact that the Rockies lost two major pieces, made some big moves or some moves at least to fill those pieces. But those what ifs and all of those things are still going to be a big factor, and it's going to be a big factor for this team. However, I do like the fact that this is with this new look Rockies team, with this new era of Rockies baseball coming in with a lot of free agents, with the most free agents, with the most people coming into the Rockies organization from the outside in a long time. That perspective might help when it comes to the Rockies and their road performance. It might be valuable to have players come in and talk about their experiences coming and going from Coors Field. And it's going to definitely work for them getting adjusted to playing so much at Coors and the altitude and yada, yada. I don't like to just lean into the Coors thing, but we hear it all the time. And it is a factor, and it's something that people think about. So I just of the mindset of fresh players, fresh perspective. It does mix things up. You couldn't really ask Trevor Story and John Gray why that team isn't performing well on the road because that's all they know. That's where they've been. They've only played in Colorado that whole time. However, there is going to be some valuable insight from Iglesias, from Grichuk, from Bryant, from all of these players on how they handled coming and going from Coors Field and how they think the Rockies can be successful, or maybe what they talked about in meetings on how to attack the Rockies on the road. Because it was interesting how big of a different beast the Rockies were between the road and playing at home last year, and will continue to be this year. I just don't think the Rockies, even with, we'll dive more into the next factor, the next area the Rockies need to be better in, which is the bullpen. But but before to close up on why I think that the Rockies will be better on the road is I just don't think they can repeat being historically bad. I don't think this team is necessarily way worse than it was last year, but the question marks and some of the pieces do make you scratch your head a little bit and wonder. The John Gray and all these new pieces coming in to filling in and their new roles at Coors Field. It's a lot of new pieces. It's a lot of new faces, and hopefully it works out, but we have to see first. But again, at the end of the day, this is there's new energy. There's new players. I don't think this team will be as bad on the road, but if this team is going to be successful, they have to be better on the road. And another place they have to be better if they want to be better or to get to that path of success, to get to that extended playoff position, to get to that above 68.5 win total that people have them set at, especially our friends at Bet Online. They have to be better on the road, and the bullpen has to be better. Arguably the biggest worry for the Rockies this year, out for me, outside of the Jon Gray starting rotation piece, is this bullpen. The bullpen has to be better. Not a lot of hype and praise for this bullpen and the changes made in the offseason, but the Rockies' plan with the bullpen I am interested in. And it always brings me back to a conversation I had with Danielle Allentuck, kind of in the middle of the season last year, more in the second half, I think. And I was curious, and I was talking, why aren't the Rockies more aggressive on getting into the bullpen? But she reminded me of how many arms the Rockies do have, and the young, and them being young. They got a lot of experience. They've had a lot of weird seasons. What is going to come of all of that? I don't know. This is easily my big worry. Just like Devin's in the live chat here, bullpen is my main worry. The Rockies will look worse than they are, especially and it was especially true last year. The record won't always reflect the Rockies' offense or starting rotation as much when you look at some of these games that they lost. That Cubs series always will come to mind last year. After the Cubs blow it up and the Rockies finally have some road momentum, they can't handle the Cubs on the road. This bullpen has to be better. This bullpen has to be an issue of concern. It has to be something you're addressing in the season as well, the deadline. If you still have a logjam of outfielders and you're not worrying about and you're not needing the depth as much as you think you are going to need it, you need to beef up this bullpen. You need to be willing to move some of your pieces. You need to be willing to move something to bolster your bullpen. If you're finding yourself in situations where you are in a competitive spot but keep losing games because you can't rely on the bullpen, because you can't get you can't get the consistent Daniel Bard. Carlos Estevez takes a step back. Rolison is injured, and I believe Rolison is dealing with things. We got a new closer that had a really tough season last year and is coming to a tough place to pitch. Can Justin Lawrence be accurate? Can he? He was one of the late send downs to minor league baseball this year. How much can the Rockies truly rely on this bullpen? And right now, I don't really, there is no answer. Just like we have a lot of question marks about everything. This is the one I need to see the most. I need to see Rockies bullpen pitchers come out and squash the narrative about them, especially ones that have been in the system for a while. I like the Chacin move. I'm fine with that, but I'm ready to see Daniel Bard kind of take on this new role and kind of build a new form of confidence of him in himself. If Daniel Bard doesn't have to worry about being the closer, I want him to worry about being the setup man who's dusting people with 99-mile-an-hour sliders like we saw. And I hope that is a bump. And I hope Carlos Estevez can carry on. And I hope we get to see some of these pieces in the bullpen that we've seen be successful this year. But when you look at the bullpen, you simply aren't blown away. You simply aren't in it. You're not just sitting there excited. You're not pumped. There's no one in here that's really going to close the door on people. I'm excited by Tyler Kinley. I'm excited by what Gilbreth can do. I think, and what Stevenson might be able to do. But I really, really hope if the Rockies are finding themselves winning some more ball games, getting enough out of their bullpen that they aren't afraid to move somebody and get some pieces to bolster that bullpen. The Rockies we can't even get to that. We can't even really think we're going to hit the over on the 68.5 wins if this bullpen is not better than last year. Why do I take that such a dip? Because this bullpen is too critical. I'm hoping we can get our starters to get to the 6th. But when you looked at some averages of our pitchers last year, it's kind of the mid 5th is when you most likely would see a Rockies starter depart a game. And that's a lot of baseball left to be played. The Rockies have to be able to count on Daniel Bard and Carlos Estevez. And the new closer role, with Alex Colomé coming in, he has to be better. The Rockies simply cannot start 9th innings with a walk and then a single and 2 runners on in the top of the 9th with a low lead. There's just far too many times in the 8th inning beyond last year that you just throw your hands up. Easily my biggest concern for the Rockies this year is this bullpen. The bullpen being better is instrumental, is really the foundation to a successful Rockies season, I think. All of these other areas, you are confident enough in the Rockies' abilities and the players they have to perform, and you hope for some of those players to exceed expectations. I think the Rockies' defense is going to take a little bit of a hit this year. They're not going to be as strong defensively, except for Ryan McMahon. But the bullpen, if the Rockies are going to surprise people, it is going to be led by the bullpen surprising people. If the Rockies are going to find themselves in any form of a position of contention, it's because the bullpen is outperforming or performing at expectations set for them. At this point, you can't get deep into this year, into this new look Rockies offense and hit another trade deadline and not try to find a way to bolster your bullpen if you find yourself in a competitive situation. Or if you clearly are seeing that the bullpen's the issue and you just need to get through this season, you need to reevaluate that as well when you hit the deadline. If you're finding yourself not at a position of contention. If the Rockies are going to turn heads, like I've said multiple times this segment, it will come because of the bullpen being good. Will the bullpen be good? I mean, again, let's go. We're going over here to RotoChamp. Alex Colomé, Carlos Estevez, Daniel Bard, Robert Stevenson, Julio Chacin, Tyler Kinley, Lucas Gilbreth, and I believe we are also Ashton Godot. And we also the big X factor will be Ty Block. So he also will be coming up. I mean, people really impressed in the spring. So there are some interesting factors in terms of just some new arms, some new thoughts, a new approach to this. But I still look at that bullpen and I still worry. I still worry that this is a team that is going to miss out on opportunities because they didn't commit more to bullpen help. However, if it pays off, this is a bullpen that does have a lot of arms that have been developed in the system that's going to bring some confidence, and that is going to be pretty great. I really, my big hope, or my, if I could have a magic wand, honestly, I would love for Lawrence to come back up and just be as accurate as he can be fireballer, and just have someone the Rockies can send in there in some games that are close, maybe when they can tell that their offense is heating up or something like that. And they can just have him come in, throw gas, and just completely disrupt timing, completely disrupt the flow, and just come in there and set batters down. I really am intrigued by a relief pitcher that throws gas with a unique motion. I think what Lawrence could do to mix up and impact timing of batters in the middle into the late game is something I'm really interested in. I know that maybe that's kind of me thinking too in a video game mentality, but I think that there is something to it when you've been locked in on a starter and then you got to come in the 7th and you're facing a guy hunched over the mound who's going to throw 100 miles an hour pretty consistently. And if it's accurate, I really like what Lawrence can bring to the Rockies. I think he is someone that I'm really interested in, because I am interested in the Rockies having someone whose whole thing is, especially if you're going to hit the ball, you'll probably hit it hard. But guess what? I'm going to throw this ball real hard, and it's coming, and it's going to be smoke. Devin in the live chat says Ty Block is my X factor. Is it Black? Ty Block? I've been I'm bouncing around with things, but the foundation of a successful Rocky season will be the bullpen. Honestly, to close that area, the Rockies will be better on the road because of their bullpen. If their bullpen is good, they will be better on the road. If they're better on the road, that helps improve their chances to getting into that extended wild card or even just hitting the over on the win total, if that's your definition of success. Again, that definition of success is different for a lot of Rockies fans right now. I'm not going to tell you I told you what mine was. Outperforming win totals, maybe flirting with the wild card, hit that mid-70s win total. I consider that a successful season. And improve in these three areas, that's a successful Rocky season for 2022. If you want to be more successful, I mean, you can be more successful. You can exceed my expectations as well. That would be great. And to exceed those expectations, the bullpen has to be much better. And if you're looking for something that's much better for you than a candy bar for your snacking habits, then you got to go and get yourself a Built Bar. If you don't want just a classic Built Bar, well, you can try out the first ever protein-infused Marshmallow the Built Bar Puffs. They're fluffy, marshmallowy, not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100%. Yes, that's 100% real chocolate. Hey, all Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate as well. They're low calorie, high protein, better snacking option for you. Go to built.com and scroll down to the macros chart so you can see all the good details for yourself so you know what you're getting into when you buy your favorite Built Bar. You're going to be blown away, though, about the high protein, low calorie, high fiber, and low carb options. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And there are so many delicious flavors for you. I can't even begin to name them all. But if you're looking for a recommendation, I like any of the ones with brownie in them. I love me a brownie Built Bar. But there's new flavors coming out all the time, and you can check out all of the great Built Bars and Built products at Built.com. And when you do so, use the promo code LOCK15, and you're going to get 15% off your order. That's 15% off your order at Built.com. 15% off with the promo code LOCK15. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Built.com. All right. My guy Devin, here we go. Alex Colome and Ty Block are the way to say them. At least that's how I heard the MLB Network and our broadcasting crews say them. If that's what we're going with, that's what I'm learning. What I like about this show, and what I like about this show growing this so far, because folks, we have been growing. I'm seeing some wonderful podcast numbers. Is I want to learn alongside you. I want to learn these new faces. I want to we got someone here in the back. It looks like they might be getting ready to record another pod here. So but anyway, I think we got a great community of folks here that have been helping me get better, especially in the live chats. Devin has been awesome. We've had some other great viewers popping in. But anyway, I'm just not perfect, you know. I reflect on that, and I want to be better, especially with names. I think pronouncing names is super important, and as someone who struggles with it and isn't as good as I want to be, it's very helpful that you people are able the fancy you people. It's be like the fans are super helpful for me there, but I'm happy for all you folks out there watching, and I'm happy that you folks are helping me be a better podcast host. Okay, looks like the other podcasts need to get into the studio here, but let's figure out or finish our conversation on, I think, something that is out of what we've talked about, the three areas the Rockies need to be better in. This is the one I'm the least worried about because I think we will see improvement for sure, and that's the offense. I think the Rockies are going to be a better offensive team this year. I know losing Trevor Story is a big deal, but Chris Bryant is someone whose part of his game is offensive production. And the Rockies are going to desperately need him to be that Trevor Story replacement. If Brendan Rodgers and Ryan McMahon are able to take steps forward, if they're able to improve, if their games are able, if their offenses see improvements, that is going to be major for the Rockies, especially because of where those two are going to end up in the lineup. Connor Joe, the ultimate X factor for the Rockies offense, and I think he's in a really interesting position where he can contribute at both the top and the middle of the line, or the middle to bottom of the lineup. As much as I like Connor Joe leading off or in the beginning of a game, if you're going to stick with Charlie Blackmon, I'm okay with Joe dipping into the bottom side of the lineup, not because of his abilities, but because I think Connor Joe is going to be that rally guy, the guy that can help flip the lineup, the guy that's going to start off with a good at bat against a reliever, someone that's going to take pitches to let people on deck get more time to see more pitches. The Rockies offense should be really, really interesting. Devin in the live chat, 30 home run, 100 RBI season for Kris Bryant. If he hits that, major. That's awesome. If we get that from Kris Bryant with good defense, Kris Bryant's big thing. I'm not worried about Kris Bryant as much on offense as I'm worried about Kris Bryant's defense. But if we get 30 home run, 100 RBI, and good defense from Kris Bryant, it's going to be a real good season. And he's going to be a real good contributor mixed with a team that hopes to hit the ball out of the yard more. I mean, with Grichuk and all sorts coming in. I mean, that's the ultimate flip right there. You're taking out your Rymel for the X factor on the offense, your utility guy, someone to get in there and do something different, and you're replacing him with someone who's instead of hitting the ball on the ground, hits the ball out of the yard. And again, I think we will see an improvement from Rodgers. I think he's going to be someone that contributes. And then what does Charlie Blackmon do this year? How effective is Charlie Blackmon going to be? Hitting a couple of home runs late in the spring and looking a little bit better. So if you're looking at the pillars of a successful Rockies season, the biggest one, like we said, is the bullpen. And that one, I think, translates into better winning and a more consistent road performance, which then is going to lead into better offense, which then leads into a more successful season, which then is into, for sure, the Rockies hitting on the 68.5 win total, or potentially even scratching even bigger and better surfaces as well. Devin, I agree with you. I think it's a success if KB is average in left field this season defensively. No defensive liabilities. And that's something we definitely can't say. Two very important positions. And again, shout out to my buddy Jambron for the information. Shortstop and center field. And the Rockies don't necessarily have the greatest defensive options there. Everyone hypes up Iglesias as a great defender, and I'm hoping for the bounce back, sure. But he needs to play a season of bounce back defense after being one of the worst defensive shortstops in the game last year. In center field, Daza can play defense, but he can't hit a lick. Everyone else is kind of on defense, and center field is a very important defensive position for the Rockies. But I'm not as worried about the defense of the team as I am worried about these other things that we mentioned, but we'll see some improvements. However, that defense is going to be something to monitor. But folks, that is going to do it for today's Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for joining me today. We'll be back in action tomorrow with more great Rockies talk, getting more excited for opening day. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel today, Locked On Rockies. Every single YouTube subscription is a big help. Same with your 5-star or any star rating on your favorite podcast service, as well as leaving a review. So thank you to Devin in the live chat. Thank you for tuning in today. And thank you for listening and making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Go out and listen to some other great baseball podcasts with the Locked On MLB Prospects and Locked On MLB podcasts. Or if you're looking for more Colorado sports talk, well, you can find it right here on the Locked On Podcast Network with the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcasts, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, as well as us here at the Locked On Rockies podcast. But folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.